Well, guys, it is now time for my Week 7 picks of the 2024 NFL season. As last week, I went 12-2, based. It's one of my best results in, who knows, probably over a year or so. Because I don't think I did this good last year off the top of my head. It's my best records, my best results so far this week. Only thing got wrong was the Broncos and Chargers and Bills and Jets, unfortunately. Both were close, though. And, of course, here is the playoff stands and the regular season stands at the season end of the day. In the AFC, it's the Chiefs with the bye, with Colts at Texans, Chargers at Ravens, and Steelers at Bills. And the NFC, it's the Vikings with the bye, with Packers at Falcons, Buccaneers at Commanders, and Lions at 49ers. And my Super Bowl prediction right now is the Lions over the Texans. Alright, so now we get to my Week 7 picks, starting off with our first night game tonight. A big one, big hour conference game, as it's the Broncos at the Saints for the first time since 2016. As the Saints won the last one, the Broncos haven't won since that 2016 game. And the Saints haven't won at home against them since 1988. As Sean Payton is going to make his return against the Saints after 3 years. So, of course, the Broncos, they got spanked by the Chargers. Even though they made a close game in the end, they still got spanked overall. Their offense couldn't do anything. Why am I not surprised? Meanwhile, the Saints got completely destroyed by the Buccaneers. Although they did make it very competitive early on because their defense played pretty good, making Baker Mayfield throw free picks. But in the end, they still got smoked. And, of course, now they've lost 4 in a row. Their stats look terrible other than their offense stats in those first 2 games. Nothing's going right for them, and Carr's still out, so I'm going to pick the Broncos for this one. Alright, then we get to a tank bowl in London, as it'll be the Patriots at the Jaguars for the first time since 2018. As the Patriots won the last one, the Jaguars haven't beaten them since 2018, and the Patriots haven't won in Jacksonville since 2012, even though this is going to be in London. So the Patriots, of course, May got his first start, and he was solid. He had 2 interceptions, but he did put up 3 touchdowns, so still a solid performance by and large, although they still got spanked by the Texans. Meanwhile, the Jaguars got destroyed by the Bears. Completely defensive collapse as they made Caleb Williams look really good with those 4 touchdowns. Lawrence played good, but it still wasn't enough in the end. This will be an interesting pick. It's going to come down to the QB, I think. And this might be a bold surprise pick, but I think I'm going to pick the Patriots for this one. I was impressed with how May played. And we'll see how it does. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Jaguars get it. But I'm going to pick the Patriots for this one. A probably surprise pick. Alright, then we get to the 1 p.m. games. As it'll be a big one in the NFC, as it's the Seahawks at the Falcons for the first time since 2020. As the Falcons won the last one, the Seahawks haven't beaten them since 2020. And the Falcons haven't won at home against them since 2013. As the Seahawks are reeling, they've now lost 3 in a row. Their division lead's been taken away just like that. And they are struggling as they're out of the playoffs at the moment. Meanwhile, the Falcons obliterated the Panthers, and now they've won 3 in a row. Maybe they're finally going to show up to be the not Super Bowl contender, a playoff contender that we all thought when Kirk Cousins came on the team. Very interesting way this game's going to go, but I'm going to pick the Falcons for this one. And then it's the Titans at the Bills for the first time since 2022. Bills won the last one. The Titans haven't beaten them since 2021, and they haven't won in Buffalo since 2012. As the Titans, of course, lost a close game to the Colts, but they couldn't get the job done in the end. The Bills, meanwhile, hard-fought game, and they managed to beat the Jets, as they really needed that win to save their season, as they have a 1.5 game lead on the division at the moment. They needed that, and of course, I'm going to pick the Bills for this one. And then it's the Bengals at the Browns. As the Bengals won the last one, the Browns haven't beaten them since 2023, and the Bengals haven't won in Cincinnati since 2017. As the Bengals, they won against the Giants, but it wasn't the prettiest, as their offense was pretty much shut down. As their defense out of nowhere finally playing good. Meanwhile, the Browns lost to the Eagles in a close game, but they couldn't get the job done in the end, as nothing's going right for them. One of the worst offenses in the league. So, normally I would pick the Browns for a scenario because they always beat the Bengals when they host them, but they're reeling too much right now. They got an elite offense coming to town, so I'm going to actually pick the Bengals for this one. And then we get to a huge outer conference matchup, as it's the Texans at the Packers for the first time since 2016. As the Packers won the last 3, the Texans haven't beaten them since 2008. As the Texans are 5-1, as they beat the Patriots pretty convincingly, as they look like one of the best teams in the AFC, even though their stats don't look necessarily the best. Meanwhile, the Packers obliterated the Cardinals as Jordan Love finally had a great game. 4 touchdowns, about time. Now he needs to keep playing like that as their defense started to take a nosedive after having such an elite start to the year. As this will be a very big game for both of them. It might come down to their defenses or Jordan Love not shitting the bed again like he did for most of the year. I'm still going to pick the Packers for this one, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Texans get it. Alright, then we get to a big AFC matchup despite the record, as it's the Dolphins at the Colts for the first time since 2019. As the Colts won the last one, the Dolphins haven't beaten them since 2019, and the Colts haven't won at home against them since 2018, as the Dolphins, of course, came off their bye after beating the Patriots in a defensive struggle, as right now they're second place in the division right now because of the Jets lost to the Bills on Monday. So they're still actually hanging in there despite their struggles. Meanwhile, the Colts, of course, beat the Titans. Flacco's did good, and I heard Richardson might be able to play this week. Although, like I said, if Flacco does play, I don't think it changed anything in the QB situation. The biggest problem, of course, is the defense at the moment, as their offense is pretty solid. They're going to go up against a pretty elite defense, but that's because of the bye. We got to remember that. And a terrible offense, which I think is probably terrible even without the bye, make it worse. But I'm going to pick the Colts for this one. And then we get to probably the hugest game of the week, as it's the Lions at the Vikings. As the Lions won the last 3, the Vikings haven't beaten them since 2022, as the Vikings try to go 6-0 for the first time since 2009. As whoever wins this game will have the lead in the NFC North. This is huge. So the Lions, of course, absolutely obliterated and destroyed the Cowboys, as now they look like probably the best team in the NFC. Meanwhile, the Vikings came off their bye after they beat the Jets in London, and Sam Darnold had his first terrible game. No touchdowns, 1 pick, but in the end, they still won. And of course, their offense looks terrible because of the bye and all that. But of course, we'll see if Darnold could keep that momentum up, or was that that game in London just like a sign of maybe he's going to start regressing back to reality? Have to wait and see on that, but this is going to be a tough test as they're facing one of the best teams in the league, and I'm going to pick the Lions to finally get the job done to beat the Vikings. Alright, that's a big one in the NFC East, as it's the Eagles at the Giants, as the Giants won the last one. The Eagles haven't beaten them since 2023, and the Giants they haven't won in East Rutherford since 2022. So the Eagles beat the Browns in a very close game, as they keep alternating win and loss, now a win. So they're hanging in there right now. Meanwhile, the Giants lost a tough one to the Bengals, as they were doing their job defensively, shut down the Bengals offense, but they couldn't get the job done offensively. Gee, why am I not surprised? So this will be a very interesting game, because remember, the Giants destroyed the Eagles last year to keep them from winning the division. This is actually kind of a tough game to pick, but I think I trust the Eagles more in this one, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants get it. Alright, then we get to the 4 p.m. games, as it's the Raiders at the Rams for the first time since 2022, as the Rams won the last 3. The Raiders haven't beaten them since 2010, and they haven't won on the road against the Rams since 1994. So the Raiders, of course, got spanked by the Steelers. Not surprised, even though they always play competitively against them. Meanwhile, the Rams came off their bye after they lost to the Packers in an ugly game last time out. And Cooper Kupp might be coming back soon, but I'm not sure if it's going to be this week, as they're just all banged up. And it's more of, who do you trust more in this game? Oh yeah, also, the Raiders trade away Devontae Adams to the Jets, so losing a big piece of their offense, but he wasn't even really doing much either, so what difference does it make? But yeah, terrible Raiders team or a banged up Rams team? Tough choice. It might just come down to the quarterback, and Stafford's better than anything the Raiders have, so I think I'll just have to pick the Rams by default, but I'm not really comfortable with it. Wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders get it. Alright, that's the Panthers at the Commanders for the first time since 2020. As the Commanders won the last one, the Panthers haven't beaten them since 2020, and the Commanders haven't won at home against them since 2018. So the Panthers, of course, got spanked by the Falcons, and nothing went right for them, although they kept it close till the very end. Meanwhile, the Commanders, hard-fought game against the Ravens, but they just couldn't get the job done to end their 4-game losing streak, and they've now tied their record from last year, too, so a win will give them a better season than last year. I'm going to pick the Commanders for this one. And then it's our Super Bowl rematch from last year, as it's the Chiefs at the 49ers for the first time since 2022. The Chiefs won the last two. The 49ers haven't beaten them since 2014. The Chiefs, of course, came off their bye after they spanked the Saints on a Monday night, and the Chiefs are trying to go 6-0 for the first time since 2013. Although, offensively, Mahomes and that offense is not good. This team is only been winning by their defense, and they're not impressing me, other than that Saints game. So I don't have a lot of trust in them. Meanwhile, the 49ers spanked the Seahawks as they took the lead back in the division and managed to salvage their terrible start. But now they got to go up against the Super Bowl rematch. And the thing is, as much as I don't trust the Chiefs, I don't trust the 49ers either. They're having a lot more bigger problems than the Chiefs are. So I'm going to probably go up against my better judgment, and I'm going to pick the Chiefs for this one. Just don't trust the 49ers right now. And then we get to Sunday night, as it's the Jets at the Steelers for the first time since 2022. As the Jets won the last two, the Steelers haven't beaten them since 2016. So the Jets, of course, a hard-fought game, couldn't beat the Bills, and I feel bad for Rodgers throwing that interception. Slide down. That could have been a big game, put him in field goal range to send the game into overtime. It just sucks that happened. Meanwhile, the Steelers, of course, spanked the Raiders to salvage their 2-game losing streak, as they're trying to catch up on the Ravens and take the division lead at the moment. This is actually going to be probably a defensive game, which of course is my forte, because I love my defensive games. And at that point, it's going to come down to the quarterbacks. And who you trust, Aaron Rodgers or Justin Fields? Rodgers played good last week against the Bills on that interception, which really was just a fluke one. So, you know what? This might be an odd choice, but I'm actually going to pick the Jets in an upset over the Steelers. Because I trust Rodgers more than I trust Fields still. Alright, then we get to a big Monday night game, as it's the Ravens at the Buccaneers for the first time since 2022. The Ravens won the last 5. The Buccaneers haven't beaten them since 2002. And the Ravens haven't won against the Ravens at home since 2001. So the Ravens, of course, beat the Commanders, as now they've won 4 in a row, salvaging their terrible start, as they actually might have the best offense in the league. Who would have thought the Ravens would have one of the best offense in the league, and their defense is horrible? That's so anti-Ravens from 1996, for crying out loud. Meanwhile, the Buccaneers throttled the Saints as they put up 51 points, as they have probably the best offense in the NFC, although the 49ers right there have a claim to that, along with the Commanders, as their offense is looking really good, but their defense is looking horrible too. This game might be the opposite of Jets and Steelers, where this game is just all offense. And this is a tough one, because both teams have been playing pretty good offensively the last several weeks. But you know what? I think I might go against my better judgment, and I may pick the Buccaneers for this one instead. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Ravens get it. Alright, then we get to our final Monday night game. Of course, I can't watch because I don't have ESPN Plus, because fuck subscription shit. It's the Chargers at the Cardinals for the first time since 2022. As the Chargers won the last 2, the Cardinals haven't beaten them since 2014. As the Chargers, of course, spanked the Broncos to get back over 500, although their offense is still really bad because of the bye, and their defense is still elite because of the bye. Meanwhile, the Cardinals, of course, got spanked by the Packers, as nothing went right for them. They were reeling that one. And yeah, I'm going to pick the Chargers for this one. And those are my picks for Week 7. I cannot wait for Broncos and Saints tonight, so my picks are the Broncos over the Saints, the Patriots over the Jaguars, the Falcons over the Seahawks, the Bills over the Titans, the Bengals over the Browns, the Packers over the Texans, the Colts over the Dolphins, the Lions over the Vikings, Eagles over the Giants, Rams over the Raiders, Commanders over the Panthers, Chiefs over the 49ers, Jets over the Steelers, Buccaneers over the Ravens, and Chargers over the Cardinals. Alright, so those are my picks. So see you all next week for my Week 8 picks.